We've just been on a panel talking about how we would create an agency of the future and what that might be like. And we had a couple of good questions that came up in the audience and a couple of good topics that we were riffing on. One of the questions was around creativity and how we get creativity, which is what clients really need agencies for, back at the centre of agency operations. What were your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think all the value is created around the idea, yet often the creativity is sort of slightly marginalised from the process. So I think we talked quite a lot about it, about what a modern creative function looks like, where it sits in the organisation, the types of briefs it gets, because I think creative firepower can be way more useful than just thinking about specific communications and channels. And then finally how it's evaluated and the contribution to the business measured, because if creativity is truly measured properly, you use the analogy of the lady who designed the swoosh for Nike for $300. If it's properly evaluated, then creativity will sit at the heart of everything.
And creativity that powers not only short-term business results, but long-term brand health and company fortunes, really. And I think inside of that, we also talked a little about the role that machines and technology and AI and machine learning are starting to play increasingly. And I think you're in a super interesting position with exec chairman of a great creative agency called Karmarama, and also your role with Accenture Interactive. So that balance between machines and human beings, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think there's probably an upstream role for machine learning ahead of creative origination, which allows us to, analyse categories and sectors much quicker than you can do with human intervention, to look at a whole raft of different communication, to distill it down into something that could sit right at the heart of the creative brief. So I would say upstream is hugely useful, both in terms of insight garnering and creativity. And then downstream, technology is a liberator of creative ideas, the way that we can turn a thought almost overnight into a data set of global feedback, the way we can then take that feedback and start to almost automate some aspects of creative delivery across multiple platforms, multiple geographies, and of course volumize it because clients need more and more content. So I would say technology is going to play a key role bookending the entire creative process.
And are human beings still in the middle?
Yeah, I think you still need the ultimate creative leap will always come from human beings, I believe. And actually, what we're hoping is technology allows us to spend more and more time on the thing that historically we're getting more and more time squeezed by. So manually trying to create a whole dashboard of creative assets and trying to, it's a waste of time. If a computer can do it faster, then why should a human being do it? We should focus on the bits that only we can do. So I think technology, data will be a great facilitator of creativity and allow people to focus on the unique skills that we've got as human beings.
So use a machine to kind of like automate the doing, animate the data and accelerate the decision.
Absolutely.
But do that to liberate the dreamers and the thinkers?
That's right, yeah, absolutely. And I think you're obviously right at the heart of this, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find any client or any business that won't value that extra human creative intervention that agencies are great at.
Because I think one of my kind of recurrent themes was I think in the last 10 to 15 years the industry has kind of shifted a little bit its focus away from creativity towards delivery mechanisms. Absolutely. And I wish we could get it back, because I'm with you. I think what the agencies really can offer the client community as we go forward into the future is that external voice to see things we don't see, the creativity that they can bring to solutions, and increasingly the strategic thinking that can get powered by data. So, great insights driven by data turned into creative solutions that change the business is kind of really what we're on about. And that human machine thing, I think, is a bit of an interesting dilemma that we're going to have to work out, because I don't know whether it's kind of human versus machine or whether it's more of a a human version of a machine?
I'm hoping it's the latter. I mean, I think inevitably, you know, we will work in tandem and by harnessing the power that technology brings to bear. And I think it's actually critical that the creative process is still human-led, you know. And I think, you know, I have seen technology that's being actively sold to clients that claims that you don't need human intervention, that they can automate and, you know, use eye tracking to identify where people are resting, you know. And I think that's dangerous, because I think without that creative leap, you know, you create a system that drives everybody towards the same actions. And if you use data to drive the same actions from everybody, where's the competitive advantage? And competitive advantage comes from, you know, creativity right at the heart of solving business and brands problems or challenges or opportunities around growth, and that's what we've got to strive for. I mean, one other thing that came up on the questions, just as a last one to throw to you, we talked a little bit about, you know, the new skills needed and also the experienced leadership that an agency of the future may or may not have. And it was interesting with the audience, because it was a split pack, wasn't it, between people who said, well, I want my agency run by experienced people, and other people saying, you know, it's time for the young guns to break through. I mean, did you think we wrestled that one through and ended up with a...
Well, I think we were probably 50-50 as well. So we were doing a live poll, and that literally was split down the middle. And I actually think you need a bit of both. As a client, what I want is experienced leadership, because it is people who understand the business and the challenges the business is facing. I also want leaders who are not set in their old ways, though, but who are willing to lean into the new. So people who will embrace technology, be unafraid and fearless in deploying it, and even being led by it, which I think is a challenge. But having said that, I think what the old folks, as I said, I think we've had a 10-year hiatus in training people on the power of creativity, the purpose of innovation, the idea of elevating a company's kind of performance over a longer term. And it's not bad, because we've learned some new skills that are massively useful. But I think getting the balance right is kind of a trick. You know, how do I get the wisdom of the old and the energy of the young to work together, so that the old people who know how to make the good stuff work are there, but also the young people who know how to get goodness out of the new stuff are there. But realistically, you know, this is it's an environment that will respond to the external challenges, and those who are most likely to adapt to survive are going to be the ones to go forward. So I think actually young people are more in touch with the things that our consumers are in touch with. And if you're going to have the human element in creativity, you must have that.
Absolutely.
So I think, yes, the future belongs to the young, but the old are staying younger than they used to, and the young are getting older than they ever did.